Hello, all you scaredy cats and kittens, and welcome to the Two Scaredy Cats Podcast, where we talk about all things strange, unusual, and paranormal. We're your hostess with the mostess. I'm Stacy.
And I'm Kara.
So, Kara, what have you been up to? We have not been on here in a hot minute because we've both been taking a break and trying to just relax a little bit before we start season 4, which we're starting today. So, what have you been up to?
Well, I don't know if you've heard of the game Lethal Company, but I've been playing that. I feel like it's very adjacent to our podcast. It's a new game that's out. Well, I don't even know if it's new, but people are playing it because it's just... So basically, you're on like a spaceship, and then you have to land on these planets, and you have to go inside these buildings, and in the buildings, you have to collect scrap metal. But while you are, there are monsters inside that try to, like, get you or whatever.
Oh, okay, cool.
It's kind of like, and there's, like, a lot of cryptids and stuff in the game, so it's kind of, like, spooky. Like, there's just one character, like, he lurks and he'll come and grab you. He looks like a freaking skinwalker, but he's called the Bracken.
But
I felt like it was an interesting game, and you play, like, multiplayer, so there's a bunch of you.
Okay, and is this, like,
It's kind of like Among Us.
What platform is it on?
Steam, so it's like a Steam game.
Oh, okay.
You play it on your computer.
Okay. So it's like League of Legends and all that kind of stuff? Or not?
Not really. It's kind of like a first-person, like, space exploration kind of game.
Okay.
But, like, it's very, like, similar kind of places, but there's, like, slimes you can discover, and your whole thing is you work for a company, and you're being paid to collect metal, and then the actual company is like this cryptid creature that's just consuming all the metal, and we don't know what's going on.
Okay. That sounds kind of cool. I might have to check that out.
But it's definitely it's a game fun to play with friends, just because it's very easy to die, and like your deaths are very funny.
Oh, okay.
And it's very scary because if you're in there alone in the Bracken, so like and there's these things called coil heads too.
Mm-hmm.
So, and they only move when you're not looking at them.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to stare at them, or they will move and kill you, and they remove your head and put like a coil.
Okay.
So it's like a horror-ish game, so it's a little crazy.
Mm-hmm.
But it's fun to play with friends, and there's like mods you can get to make it funny. And there's like these bugs that'll they'll like beat you up and stuff. It's interesting.
Yeah, sounds neat. So check that out.
Yeah, me and Mario and all our friends have been playing that.
Yeah, that's always fun when you can find a game that everybody kind of likes.
It's a nice, fun game, and then it's kind of like scary, but it's also like, you know, a lot of funny moments because the game is like got very good comedic timing. Like you'll just walk into a room and instantly die, and people will hear you scream and die.
Okay.
Like, I don't know how
that's
to describe
a little
it,
morbid, but all right.
But it's like a fun, like, because it has near communication, so you can only talk to people when you're near them.
So it's like Among Us, basically, the little game with the little...
It's kind of like Among Us, and it's also like the paranormal activity game that you...
Oh, okay.
Where you can go ghost hunting, but people die and you, like, stop hearing them. It reminds me of that kind of a game.
Okay, cool. Speaking of aliens and crazy stuff, did you hear the story that came out of Florida with the whole mall incident where all those, like there was 50 cops that showed up, cruisers with cops in them that showed up, and people were claiming that there was an alien or a humanoid creature that was like 12 feet tall that was running through the mall, and people were freaking out.
Yeah, it was crazy.
It was pretty crazy and intense. I don't know about you, but I don't think I had that on my bingo card for the start of 2024. But yeah, it's been all over the interwebs. Everybody's trying to figure out what it was, and everybody's offering up all these crazy ideas of what it is and all this stuff. So just be on the lookout, people. There's strange things out in that universe. Strange things. That reminds me.
It's funny that they had Fox News go on and be
right?
like, "Oh yeah, this is not true at all." But they won't release any of the footage, so I'm just like, "What's the real truth?"
Right? It makes you wonder. Yeah, I know. And that's the part where they're being so cagey about it. And I mean, I've seen like where, you know, people have rioted and they called in the cops. I've never seen that many cops show up to
that was an insane amount. I did see how there was like a crazy amount of cops.
Yeah.
It just seems weird. Like, I feel like they could easily like shut this down if they just showed us the actual footage, but they won't.
Exactly.
So it's making
I know
it
that
worse.
makes it even. Yep.
Like,
I agree.
the people are going to speculate then.
Yep. And that's like the big talk, obviously, of right now. There was also, I don't know if everybody's seen this yet. It just came out. I want to say it came out like yesterday, or wait, what day are we? Oh, we're on Tuesday. I think it came out Sunday. There was a video that surfaced from Brazil, apparently. And there's this humanoid looking, it looks like a person is standing on top of this mountain. And they're just standing there and somebody's taking a video of it. And then a couple seconds later, they turn to their side and all of a sudden their arm is not the length that you would expect a normal human arm to be. It gets like really long. It doesn't have any fingers, or you can't really see a hand. It's really bizarre. You should check it out, though. That, like I said, that came out of Brazil, and that was actually on TMZ the other day, too. So when TMZ is picking it up, a silly news channel, but still, I mean, the fact that they picked it up is interesting. So a lot of crazy alien cryptid creatures are coming to the surface in 2024, people. You heard it here first. Hell yeah, allegedly.
I don't know.
Allegedly, yeah, is the whole air quote thing here. They're finally showing themselves to us. It's finally happening. Anything else going on? Or what, you're going to be traveling in the next month, right? Or next 3 weeks or so. Where are you heading to next? What's your next con?
It's Katsucon, so it's in National Harbor, but that's like in DC area.
Oh, okay, cool.
Yeah. I was just at ALA, which was in Long Beach, California.
Mm-hmm.
So that one was fun. Got to see the Queen Mary in
the
the distance.
I know. I was like, dang it, Kara, you should have went and checked it out.
I was gonna go. I didn't go last time. It just doesn't seem like it's too far from the location of the...
Well, that's it. That means we're going to have to do a trip to California. That's
something like that.
That's what I'm sensing. A trip to California is in the works.
Well, I want to go to San Jose so we can go to the
Winchester House, Mystery House.
Because it's right in San Jose.
Yep, we should do that. That would be cool. All right. Well, I guess we're going to go ahead and get started. New year, new season. So we're, ready to start off with a bang, I think, anyway. I'll let Kara begin, because it's always fun to let her start first. So what do you got for us?
So we're going to be talking about the Travis Walton case, which is an alien abduction story, which is kind of related to what we've been talking about. Talking about alien and foreign planets. And, the alien.
Definitely fits right in.
This is a kind of... I was surprised I had never heard about this case before. I might have heard it, like, in passing. But it's a pretty crazy story. And it was well-documented story, which is always... Like, you know how sometimes a lot of people are like, oh, yeah, you totally had that happen. Because it started as a missing persons case. So this... It was about from 1975. So it's not too far back.
No.
And there's a movie based off of this called Fire in the Sky that's worth checking out. I have not seen it, but now I want to go see it after this because I'm curious how close it is to the actual events. Because you know how movies always dramatize things and make it more out of this world. What I think...
I'd say Discovery Channel just had a documentary on all about that, and the couple that we covered before.
The Benny and Barney Hill.
Yeah, they actually covered that one too in the documentary. Well,
interesting because I was just about to talk about them because this missing persons case happened within weeks of a TV special on the Barney and Betty Hill case, which was covered before, which we covered before on the podcast. But this brought a lot of attention to this case because it happened right after that was posted on live TV. So a lot of people were speculating that he got the idea to be abducted by aliens from that. Which, obviously believe what you want after you hear the story and, do your own research. Right. But, it is... we have to bring it up that it did happen around this time. Because it's something that's in discussing. Like you said, it was interesting. Because these are kind of, one of the first few, very well-publicized alien abduction cases. Yep, they definitely were. So, Travis Walton was a 22-year-old at the time. So he worked for a logging crew in the Pachysagrivis National Forest, which is in Arizona. On November 5th, 1975, Travis Walton was reported missing. He was reported missing while on the job, and it was described that after seeing an odd light in the sky, he left the truck we was in to investigate. There were 6 other people with him, so there were multiple witnesses to this.
And that's what helped kind of validifies it.
It does, because they all
there's 6
all
other
6
people there.
The people who saw were the ones who reported him missing, and like at least this part of it, they were able to corroborate. This is what happened to him before he disappeared. So there were like multiple people who saw all of this happen. So they heard strange sounds from the object as they got closer. So he was the closest one to the saucer that they saw, essentially. He was turning around because he's like, oh, it's kind of a little sus. It was starting to make some very strange sounds, and like it was kind of like very real. Like, you know how like initially you're like, oh, I'm curious. It seemed like he was like, oh, I probably shouldn't be as close as I am. So he turned around as if he was going back, and a bright beam of greenish light shot down, and Travis was gone. That is what they've said. And the other 6 obviously fled because, like, what are you gonna do at this? And they went to go get help.
Yeah. I'd be running for my life, and be like freaking out for my friends.
mean, that's
like,
an insane thing. Especially because there's so many people who they were working for like a logging company, so they're probably pretty used to like being in the woods, and it's not like something that you would normally see in the forest, which is probably why they were investigating. So like, what the heck, kind of a thing. So the investigation began on November 7th. A search party was deployed to the area, which that is technically 2 days after he was abducted, but I think it was like the day after because it happened at night. So, you know, like technically they probably would have reported November 6th, and then like the next day is when they began the investigation. So a search party was deployed to the area, but they failed to find any evidence. They continued the search until November 9th, when the mother requested the search be halted. She allegedly was very certain that he was no longer on this planet, which was kind of weird that's what she said.
Yeah, that's kind of weird. Yeah, that was her exact wording. That is weird.
She was believed that if he wasn't to be found in the woods, and then she thought he was probably not here anymore on this planet. But her words did say that on the planet, so... And this was after that, the Benny and Marnie Hill thing. I'm not saying that they're related at all, but you know what I mean. We do have to, like, acknowledge that is a thing that happened at this time. And so... news of the mysterious disappearance had spread worldwide, and like there were stories being published in like the UK, Canada, and all these places around. It kind of like, especially after people were really fascinated by the Betty and Barney Hill case, so people like, oh, this is actively happening, so people kind of just ran with it. So on November 12th, Walton's sister received a call to her home from a payphone she did not answer. She did not answer the phone, but her husband did, because he was home at the time. The caller was none other than Travis Walton himself. Immediately, the husband left to go pick up Dwayne, I think his name is. It's Travis's brother. The way it's spelled, I think it's Dwayne, but you never know. And they went to go pick the brother and Travis up. Because it was a collect call, the phone operator had to leave, so he had to leave his name for the phone operator, and they noticed the name because he's a missing person, and they alerted the sheriff. So they did go investigate. So they met him basically at the house to be like, hey, they didn't tell him that they knew that he was found, but they're like, what's going on here? So,
well, the weird thing was he was missing for 5 days.
Yes,
and in most abduction cases, you know what I mean? They're only missing like a night. Short
Normally,
period
it's
of
like
time,
a night.
not 5 days.
That's why it was very noticed, like a very popular case and very studied, because 5 days is a long time to be missing.
Right.
And like there was a search, so it's pretty hard to lay low. And when he was, so this is what he claims when he was found. Travis went unconscious when he was hit by the initial beam of light, and he awoke into a hospital-like room where 3 short, bald creatures, which he fought with them because they were trying to like hold him down or whatever, until a human with a helmet on brought him to a different room, and he blacks out. And that's all he remembered from being on the craft we think he was on. He doesn't remember anything else until he was walking along a highway with a flying saucer leaving him. And when he felt very weird. Like dazed, confused, obviously. But that's what he claims has happened. So it's pretty It's a very interesting story.
So, in your research, I'm curious, did you come across, like, I watched a documentary on it, and they brought up this fact that the guy that he was working for actually had just claimed bankruptcy on his...
Yeah, I saw something about that when I was reading.
Yeah, and there was speculation that they thought that this, like, he was in on it with Travis.
Because they got awarded $5,000 or something for the UFO case.
And they said that they felt like this was like a stunt by them to help them get money for this company since it was going under and was going to have to file for bankruptcy. Yeah. But I didn't know if you had come across that. I did see that when I was... Which makes it interesting. You know, it makes you wonder if they were all in it together or not.
But then it's weird because there's a lot of, like, back and forth. So one person said that, like, one of the, like, a UFO researcher or something, I don't remember exactly, so don't quote me on that. But when they told his story about, like, this description of the creatures, someone said, the guy said that he had seen, or he had another report that was almost identical to the way he described, but that had never come, it was never public reporting. So, like, no, not about the light, the creatures that he saw, the way he described them was almost identical to another case.
To somebody else. Okay.
That someone had described them the same, which was, they were completely unrelated, and there was no way he would have known about the other.
Right, because it had never been brought to light.
So there's a lot of, like, credibility, but then there's a lot of questioning just because of the timing.
Exactly.
So it's a very much, like, we don't know where the truth is. Mm-hmm. I mean, I want to believe it because it's a cool story.
Yeah. I mean, can you imagine?
You have to, like, be, like, a little bit skeptical, I feel like, on anything. But
and he also, I don't know if you watched the same documentary I did, he was talking about it, you know, years later, or somebody was talking about it, and he mentioned that he felt like they weren't supposed to have zapped him with that beam, and he was like an injured dog on the side of the road kind of thing is how he felt, and that they felt bad for him, and that's why they took him up, and that's why he was gone for 5 days, because he said he felt like he was near death. Yeah. And because
they took him to the hospital immediately, or they were trying to get him hospital when he got back, because he was, like, not doing great.
Right. Yeah. And they tried to fix him, he said, like, you know, that's why they took him. They were trying to fix him after that happened. So, which I thought was interesting. Just kind of adds more to the case, you know what I mean?
I did see that, like, one of the guys who originally was like, yeah, I saw this, went back on his statement, but that's because he wasn't included in they were making, like, a new movie or
and he felt shafted because he wasn't in
so
it
he suddenly went back. So I don't know if it's, like, it's one of those things where you're like, I don't know if it's just because he felt slighted by the whole thing. Right.
And then he wants to now come out with his own story. You know how that is.
That's why I'm like, I don't, it's obviously worth mentioning, but.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, at the time, it was one of the biggest UFO abduction cases, you know, that we had. And that time, you didn't have all these stories. The only other story around at that point was basically the Betty and Barney Hill story. You know what I mean? So, I mean, their story could be true. There's just a lot of, you know, questionable.
But I feel like most real stories, there's a lot of gray. You know,
100%.
Which I think it's better than looking at it with that than completely skeptic or completely
like all in,
like just like a kind of like. I mean, I think it's a really cool, interesting story that I think is something we should discuss. Regardless.
Oh yeah, definitely. Oh yeah.
So I wanted to bring it up, especially because how closely related it was to the Benny and Barney Hill case, which we have covered before.
Oh yeah, the Benny and Barney Hill case was a real doozy. I mean, not that this crazy. One wasn't. I don't want to make it sound.
No, I meant both of them are. This one was crazy because he went missing, and then they found him.
Exactly. I mean, 5 days missing. I mean, they looked everywhere for this guy. I mean, they covered tons of, and he did. I mean, they had so many people looking for him. It was insane. So the fact that nobody found him is like, that's the weird part. It's like, where did he hang out? Because he didn't, he kept saying that he was in a ship. Maybe he really was. We don't know.
We don't know. We really don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We'll never know. You know how that is.
Yeah.
Just keep hearing all these weird stories.
Exactly. What are you covering today?
Okay, so today I am going to be talking about a haunted location in England. And this one has a little bit of a little bit of witchcraft in it and all that good stuff. In Britain, one of the most haunted houses that they have is called the Cage. And this was a medieval prison for witches. So we have to go all the way back to the year 1562. That's when this whole story takes place we talk about this witch and all that, and then we'll fast forward into the future and we'll talk about some of the hauntings that happened there. Yeah, to present day. So the cage was a prison where 13 witches were kept in the year 1582 while awaiting trial to be tried as witches. So they became known as the Witches of St. Osyth. And the most famous witch of this group was a lady by the name of Ursula Kemp. Now, at the time of this, Ursula was birthing maid for the ladies of this particular town where she lived. And she would, help with the birth of the babies. And she would also help raise them for the first couple months or so of their life to help, help the mom out or whatever.
The doula kind of thing?
Yeah, not a. It is
a second wife.
Yeah, a midwife, or she was a midwife. That's what I was looking for. Midwife.
That's what it was called. Yeah, midwife.
So she was a midwife. So, and not only that, she was also a healer. So she would be called upon by the people of this town to help them out, when they were sick and stuff. So, at the end of the trial, she ended up being found guilty. There was one other woman besides Ursula that was found guilty, and they were hung. So, as I told you guys, Ursula was a midwife who was accused of witchcraft after a child had become sick and one of them died while she was taking care of them. So she was accused of using her familiars to kill the children and make them ill. She was involved in a feud with a local family, and after some unfortunate deaths, she was accused of witchcraft. And this, my friends, is where our story starts. So picture this. We're talking back in the 1500s, where all you need to say about anyone, especially women at this time, a woman neighbor, is that you think she's practicing witchcraft, and everybody loses their shit and they come after you, with pitchforks, and they're going to hang you in the middle of the town for being a witch. So this lady named Grace Thurlow brings her son Davy to Ursula because he has fallen ill, and they don't know what his illness is, but he's not doing very well, and she decides she would like to get some help from Ursula, who is known through the town as like the town healer. So Ursula cures the child, but the way she supposedly cured the child was saying some type of incantation. And Grace had overheard her saying this incantation, and she kind of thought that, that's a little funny, and, thought maybe she was up to no good. So she kind of filed that away in her brain, but she let it go. So an argument happens to break out between these two ladies, and apparently these two were back and forth over the years. So, they already had all this animosity between each other. So an argument breaks out between the two women, and Grace refuses to have Ursula be her nursemaid for her infant daughter, Joan. Now, Ursula takes this as a dig at her, because she essentially is the nursemaid for the whole town. She helps birth all these babies and all that. And Grace, is refusing her to be able to do that. So the infant at some point fell from her crib and broke her neck. Now, Grace says that she believes that it was Ursula who did that because she got smited by her for not, being the nursemaid for her. So at this point, rumors are starting to go around town about Ursula maybe being involved in witchcraft. But nothing has been proven or anything. It's just speculation at this point. So Grace, again, later on, approaches Ursula for help when she herself becomes lame. They say that she thinks she had possibly arthritis, and her joints were really sore and stuff, and she was having trouble getting around. So Ursula goes and helps her out. She gives her some medicine to help with her pain, and her pain and Grace's pain goes away. But there's another argument that ensues between these two, and Grace refuses to pay Ursula the money that Ursula told her it would cost, stating that she was too poor and she couldn't afford that amount of money. So when her lameness returns, apparently her arthritis came back with a vengeance, apparently, she blames Ursula for it, and she claims that she had muttered to her in town that she hopes she gets sick and dies. So now she's blaming Ursula for her lameness, She's blaming her for her son Davy's sickness that she claims Ursula, made him. After this little incident took place, she claims that Davy got sick again with the same illness that Ursula had cured earlier. And she also blames her for the death of her infant daughter who died in the crib. So at this point, Grace is fed up with her, and she decides she's going to go complain to the authorities about her being a witch.
Oh.
Ursula gets brought to the authorities. And during this time, they have a huge trial, okay? And while she's on this trial, they tell her, well, if you just tell us who some other, witches are in town, we'll let you off kind of easy. So she thought she was going to get some kind of deal. So she starts naming all these other women in town that she thinks, or that she feels are witches. You know what I mean? You know how that is. It's all hearsay. Nobody can really prove it. But, oh no, this witch is calling them all out, so they must be witches. So the whole town goes nuts. They start grabbing all these women. They have like 13 in total. But during the trial, the guy that was prosecuting, all these witches and bringing forth all this information that he had on why he thinks they were witches, Ursula had an illegitimate son at the time who was 8 years old, and his name was Thomas Rabbit. Well, they somehow convinced this little boy to testify that his mother had used witchcraft and managed to get a confession from Ursula herself when she was in a room privately with the prosecutor guy. And essentially they think that he had told Ursula that if she would admit to it, that they would somehow, her sentence would be less and she wouldn't get hung, or, you know what I mean? That she would live through it. So, through the testimony of Thomas and Ursula herself, it became apparent to them that she had 4 familiars that she used during this time to take care of Grace Thurlow's family. And there was another woman that came forward and said that Ursula had tried to kill her with one of her familiars too. So, the 4 familiars that she apparently had was a white lamb, a black cat, a black toad, and a gray cat. Now people, I know, this is so crazy. So these people were claiming that they saw these animals when things would happen. So, they're all convinced that these creatures are like her familiars and all that. So unfortunately, Ursula and one other witch got hung, and they were both hung in 1582. The house they kept her in at the time, called the cage, was also used to detain men, women, and children for over 300 years until 1908, when they decided that that it was not to be used anymore for those purposes. I guess they had built a larger jail to contain, all the people that were, acting out in their little village or town or whatever you want to call it. So many of the subsequent owners over the years could not handle the paranormal activity in this house. So at this point, this place called the cage gets turned into a house. It's like a 2-bedroom home, and I actually looked it up and got to see the inside of it. There was a video I found about it. It's crazy how this house is set up. But anyway, in 2004, a lady by the name of Vanessa Michell decides she's going to buy the house. Now, she's not married. It's just her and her child. And, well, she was pregnant at the time. So she moves into the house. She didn't live there for very long, though, because she said that she was physically attacked by the spirits of the house while she was pregnant. She said she would witness mysterious blood spatters that would appear all over in different parts of the house. She says she was spanked on the bottom by a demonic entity. What? Yeah, what? She was knocked. Yes, okay. She was supposedly knocked down the steps by a spirit. It would you have to see these steps in this house. They're very, very narrow, and they're not like a full step. It's like a triangle step. These were very tiny steps. So, the newspaper article that I came across that was talking about Miss Mitchell and her, how she had owned this home for all this time, the paper indicated that she had reportedly tried to sell the home numerous times, but people would look at it, but nobody wanted to buy it because the house gave them, the creeps so bad. It should also be noted that the walled courtyard that is outside of the cottage leads to a place called Coffin Alley, which basically is a passageway where the bodies of the dead were carried en route to the cemetery that's nearby where this house is. So if you think about that, here we have this home that, you know, has seen all these terrible atrocities made to these, you know, women, calling them out as being witches and all that. And people were, you know, hung near the property there. You also have all these people that have passed away and are dead being drugged past this house every time somebody dies to get to the neighborhood cemetery or whatever. So the house has also been the subject of a docudrama, and Miss Michell has co-authored a book called Spirits of the Cage, and it's also all about the paranormal nightmare that she had while she was living there. They said that over the years, they've had paranormal groups come in and investigate. It's been on a lot of, shows that I'm sure you all have seen before. But it's said that the house has been cleared of many of the evil spirits living there, including a satanic-looking goat. Growling, moving shadows. Visions of ghosts who would try and push anyone living down the steps. Now, apparently somebody hung themselves in the rafters up on the upper floor where the bedrooms were. They don't know who it was, but people have seen, including her, has seen a full body apparition of a man. And they think that he's the one, and they don't think it was like from way back in the 1500s because he doesn't have the right type of clothing for it to have been then. It's like more recent. They think he might be the one that hung himself in the home. But for whatever reason, this place is like a paranormal, lover's dream because of all the activity and stuff that goes on there. But anyway, so she sold the house, or I don't know if she sold the house. It was for sale in 2012. I don't know if it actually got sold or not. But
Would
apparently,
you buy that house it's on?
I would not buy. I mean, after, she's talking about some, creature was like, beating her on the butt and stuff. I'm like, what the what? That is insane. But she talked about, when I was watching a video about, some of the hauntings and stuff that she experienced when she was in the house. She talked about one time she was down in the room where they would have kept the women during the 1500s when they were going to be hanging them or whatever for the witchcraft thing. And she was in that area of the house, which had been converted to a kitchen at the time and a dining room, I believe it was. And, she was in there ironing some clothes, and her son had some like little Thomas trains that were up on the second floor in his bedroom. And she's ironing her clothes, and the next thing she knows, there's a couple of trains that are like rolling by her feet on the floor, and you can hear, and they're making like the little Thomas sounds, So she said that kind of like was pretty much it for her at that point, and that's when she decided that she didn't want to stay in the house and that she wanted to get rid of it. But she's had a really hard time getting rid of this home. And when I was looking up the information on it, one of the realtors had said that over the years there have been so many people that have owned this home, but they let it go very quickly for whatever's going on in there. So I guess we'll never really know what is going on in there or who these creatures are. But it's really cool to know that it's still there today. You can go check it out if you want. I don't know if they're still doing like actual tours of it, but it's still there and people are allowed to walk by it and, check it out and that. But anyway, so that's what I have for this week. I thought that was pretty interesting. Some of the crazy stuff that went on in that house. Now I want to go read her book. By the way, like I said, the book is called The Spirits of the Cage. And I believe you can find that on Amazon or wherever. So you might be some good reading for you this winter while you're, stuck at home freezing and trying to stay warm.
Stupid snow.
Yep, and wanting a good book to curl up with.
Go watch that movie, whatever.
Yeah, go watch that movie.
Fire in the Sky, I think that's called.
Yeah, Fire in the Sky. There's another thing for you to do this winter while you're...
Yeah, there's a lot of documentary. I was also a documentary.
I think I did too. I'm not.
I think you watched a different one.
Oh, see, mine was on the Discovery Channel.
So I watched one on
talking
YouTube.
About like all these alien encounters that had gone on.
Oh okay. Yeah, this one was like specifically about just this case. It was like an hour long deep dive kind of thing.
So yeah, so that's all we got for you. Like you said, welcome back. We're glad you are back with us.
Yeah, you guys had a good
Christmas, New Year, and all that good stuff. We'll be coming at you with some other cool and interesting things, hopefully, now that we don't have a wedding to plan and, all the craziness of a wedding going on. So, all right. Well, that's all I have. Just keep your eyes to the sky, people. Keep your eyes to the sky and pay attention to the world around you, because you never know what you're going to see.
And if you enjoyed our podcast today, follow us on Instagram at Two Scaredy Cats Podcast. And please be sure to leave a review on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. It really helps the show get discovered. And tune in 2 weeks for a new episode. And to all our scaredy cats and kittens out there, remember, curiosity didn't kill these two scaredy cats.